Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's going on? Y'all know what it is. It's a little bit after 3 o'clock Central Standard Time. So we are live for another episode of Book Talk Live. We are joined today by some amazing authors yesterday they launched their book, The Mother You Know, and it went Amazon #1, not in one category, not in two categories, not in three. I can keep going. They launched to #1 in 17 different categories. So, ladies, how y'all doing today?
Doing good.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. So I could give y'all this amazing introduction of who these ladies are, but what I want to do is allow them to kind of tell y'all who they are so that y'all get a chance to meet them individually.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Evelyn McGovern, and I'm the president of a nonprofit organization called Women of Colors, and that's with the S on the end. We're an independent organization in the city of Saginaw, but we serve the Great Lakes Bay region, and we promote diversity and enhance community relations in our community. And we empower families, and we do that by mentoring youth, uh, having co-drives, networking with other organizations, churches, and schools. And we just do whatever we can to serve our community.
There you go. And she's still being humble. All right. Who wants to go next?
I'm Lula Woodard, and I am almost a lifetime member of Women of Colors. I've been with Women of Colors going on 22 years of the 30 years, starting next year that we will be celebrating our anniversary. Prior to coming to Women of Colors, I am now a retired teacher from K-12 for one of our school districts here, as well as I'm currently a licensed uh, social worker. I'm a prevention specialist and a recovery coach also. I'm a person in long-term recovery, celebrating 28 years as of this past November 13th. That's my sobriety birthday. I'm currently a member of Victorious Believers Ministries, where I've been with them for 25 years. I am a community leader, a church leader. I have been involved in a lot of anything that has to do with education for our children, for our adults, community involvement, as I stated, also promoting social justice, anything that I can put my hands to that will bring about and try to tear down some of the systemic racism that has been luring over us for centuries, and to take a look at the racial disparities that has been plaguing us as well in mental health, in our schools, in just in these areas that Blacks and people of color have been experiencing. So I am excited about having the opportunity to speak about the mother that I know and to bring about, utilize some of the information that I've had and that my experiences also that I bring to the table as well. And so being a graduate of Chicago State University with a bachelor's degree, also from the University of Alabama with a master's degree, and being here in Saginaw, Michigan, being a Cardinal with an EDS degree as a specialist in education leadership. I look forward to being an inspiring entrepreneur. Since now we've launched this book, I can see myself going a little bit farther in order to encourage others, to empower others, and to do some skill building for parents, teens, and for our generation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Vicky Hill. I am also a member of Women of Colors. I am the vice chair of the organization. I am a branch manager of a credit union here in Saginaw, Michigan. I am also a radio personality for KISS 107 WTLZ, also a Stellar Award winner. So I am heavily, heavily, heavily involved in the community and all of the different areas that I fit in and all of the different areas that I do. I am also the the co-founder of Saginaw's Gospel Fest. That this is my 21st year in doing so, which is coming up this weekend, August the 6th, which I'm looking forward to. It's going to be great. That is who I am. I am a mother of two. I have a son and a daughter and one grandchild. That is who I am. I am a mother.
All right, now come on. Listen, so y'all are definitely in for a treat because these women are all women of excellence, women of outstanding stature, and we even had the conversation yesterday. Miss Lula, you left a couple of them credentials off when you introduced yourself. So I want to get into how did y'all come up with the concept for this book, The Mother You Know? What was the base of it? Where did it start? You got to come off mute, Miss Evelyn.
Really, it started about 15 years ago when we Women of Colors was having one of our meetings, and we have different topics every month. But this particular month, we decided to talk about our mothers, and we called it The Mother You Know. And so it was about 10 women in the room, and of those 10 women, 9 of the women, I mean, we all ended up weeping after each woman had spoke about their mother. And it was only one woman that had nothing but great things to say about her mother. She could find nothing wrong with her mother. And I just thought, wow, that's amazing. I just couldn't believe it. It kept lingering in my mind for years to pass, and I, it led in my spirit that these stories need to be heard. It's so the rich stories, and it can help someone. And so that was the encouragement for me to make sure that this book came to fruition. And so here we are today, uh, with The Mother You Know. And so I know Vicky, and I'm not sure if Vicky was in the room, but I know Miss Lula was in the room that day when we had this topic of The Mother You Know. And it was just, yeah, I believe Vicky was in. I'm sorry, Vicky was in the room. That's right, because I heard her story. And so it's just so powerful, and for all of us to be transparent, it's just unreal. And so I'm so proud of everything we've accomplished with this book.
Nice, nice. So I want you to, if y'all can, what we're gonna do is take a really quick commercial break, probably about 2 minutes, and then we'll be right back. But once we come back, I want to hear a few of the stories from each of the ladies that are in the Mother You Know. Business of Books Mastermind coaching program has been around for the past 3 years. Myself as a coach, we've actually helped hundreds of authors get the books published and even more to become Amazon #1 best-selling authors. Over the past year and a half, we started our Amazon bestseller launch program, and 225 plus to date have all become #1 best-selling authors in multiple categories. Now, the reason that we started this coaching program is for people like you who you've either just started working on your first book and you don't know where to go with it. You're looking for a blueprint to creating your book. You're wondering how to market your book. You're wondering about how to connect with your audience. And most importantly, how am I going to sell this book and create income from it? These are all things that we teach you inside of 90 Days to Bestseller. The reason that this program is relevant to you is because you want to write that book and you want to be successful. Now that person may not be you. Here's the opposite. You've already written your book and you want to relaunch it as a bestseller. Been there, done that. My first book, I actually changed the cover twice for that exact same reason. The first cover, I loved it. But for some reason, after a while, it got stale. It was sitting on the shelf. So I created my own cover. Bad idea, right? The reason that it was a bad idea is because it looked like somebody was creating a network marketing flyer for my book. Went back and let a professional do it. Keyword, professional. Once that professional got their hands on my book, changed the book cover, it created a completely different vibe for my book. And here's what we've done as a result. From that change, from those slight changes, having a professional designer, going and hiring a professional editor, that book has actually launched a career for me that has taken me around the globe. And when I say around the globe, I've spoken at places all across the country and even done a few virtual international workshops here in the past few months. Now, for you, we can show you the exact same thing. We have the blueprint, we have the tools, we have the system that will work to help you get your book published and launched as an Amazon bestseller. Now, how long does it take? Typically, it takes us about 90 days. We're not going to tell you that it's going to be overnight. We're not going to tell you that it's going to be easy, but we will tell you that we have a blueprint that works, and you should be next. Right. So now that we've heard a little bit, kind of, where the book came from, what I want to know is what's inside, because each one of you had phenomenal moms, and some had some challenges with moms, some things that you learned from them. Um, Tell us a little bit about the mother that you know.
So do you want me to start first or?
You can.
Oh, okay. Well, I know I had a phenomenal mother, even though she had a lot of challenges. And some of those challenges she had no control of. And I didn't realize that at the time. And so I was, some of the things I share in the book, I never thought I would share with anyone, especially publicly. But I thought it was time now to take off the mask and to share. Not only was it therapeutic for myself, but to help other families. And so that was another driving factor for me. Um, what I share in the book, a lot of it's not pretty. And that's life. A lot of times you have to take the bitter with the sweet. And so I'm honoring my mother by writing this book. She's no longer here. She unexpectedly died on and in a couple years before she died, I wasn't even speaking to her. For 2 years I never spoke to my mom. I was so upset with her and the decision she made in her life, which was her choice. But then I realized that that's the only mother I have. I only have one mother, and I needed to love her while she was living. And I'm so glad I did, because 2 years later, she was gone. And I never got a chance to say goodbye to her. Never, ever. I wasn't able to go to her funeral. Why? Because I was in the hospital. And so I talk about that journey from when I was a child, from when my married, and then all of a sudden one day I come home and they're getting a divorce. All the challenges of a divorce, and my mom remarried, and I had the worst stepdad ever, ever. And so I opened up Pandora's box, and a lot of this just held me down. Now I feel free. I feel released from bondage. I just hope that from writing and telling my story that I have blessed someone. And if I've done that, I know that the hard work that I put into this was worth every second, every second.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah. So when you finally got a chance to talk to your mother 2 years later, she was gone. So for everybody that's out there, let that be the key. You never know how long we have with those that came before. So make sure you spend that time with them and love on them while they're here.
Right. And I had
Yeah.
to also Sugar Ray, I had to forgive her. I had to forgive her, and love her for who she was, in spite of, you know, everything, because I didn't know all of her story. And then when and once I started to research and do some things to figure out, well, what's going on with my mom. She didn't tell me everything. A lot of times we don't know why our mothers do the things that they do. They don't tell us. We have to figure out, or somebody else tells us. And then who knows if that person who's telling us something or something about our mother is telling us everything, or do they know the whole story? So I just, I think it was so important for me to share this, because I know it's going to bless someone. I just know it is.
Absolutely. And it's a blessing. There's so much more to the story. So y'all make sure y'all go and grab a physical copy of the book. And the link is actually scrolling below. So make sure you hit that link and go ahead and grab your copy as well. All right. Ms. Lula, Ms. Vicky.
And I guess for me, part of mine is of two tales, as you would say, being the daughter, the oldest of seven children, with my mom and dad, and living in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and thought I had a pretty good life, but had siblings I had to take care of because I watched them all being born. And probably my parents worked. My dad worked at the plant, and my mom worked at the University of Alabama. And in the evening, she would do hair. So she was a hairstylist. And so I came from what we think of today and consider a strong work ethic family. And so growing up, I was kind of the loner. I was a lonely child, being the oldest, because I had nobody. I had my cousins, because I have lots of cousins. My dad is the seventh child of 11 kids. Of 11 kids, and so I got a lot of cousins. So those was my brothers and sisters, my cousin sisters and cousin brothers. And today it's 72 of us, and so today it's 54 of us that's living. And so I'm grateful for that, but it still doesn't take the place, because we started migrating to the north from the south. And so a lot of them went to Chicago, and they went to Detroit and different places. And so being there, somehow, I don't know, my mother made the decision to send me to live with her parents in Chicago. And I'm about 11 years old, because I was in elementary, and nobody asked me, did I want to go or anything. And I thought I was a pretty smart kid, but kids did what adults told them to do, and you didn't ask no questions. And so I did. I went, but I was in culture shock, because I went to an all-Black school with all Black teachers and principals, and my community was all Black, but there was a white community on the other side of the fence, the 6-foot chain fence. That was a white community, but we didn't interact with each other, because this is during the time when George Wallace was the governor of Alabama. And so there was a lot going on when it came to racism down there. And, I specifically remember sitting in the living room with my dad and my siblings watching on our little black and white TV the going-ons at the University of Alabama, because my mom and auntie was there, and they couldn't come home that night because the Ku Klux Klan was out there burning crosses, throwing tomatoes, and it was just a mess. And so I watched this. It didn't take an effect on me until I went to Chicago to live with my grandparents, and I had an epiphany. I was in my 5th grade class, and we were talking about the civil rights movement, and it dawned on me, oh, I remember those people with white hoods on their heads. I didn't have a name for them, because we didn't talk about racism and that kind of stuff in our family. We just talked about Jesus love you and going to church and all of that and all of that. And so that's what we did. So we didn't talk about, the hatred of whites and hating whites It's like in the South, you knew your position and you stayed in your position. And so when I was in that 5th grade classroom, it just hit me. Oh, I remember these people. And then I began to, inside of me, it dwelled up inside of me, a desire to want to learn more about the civil rights movement, wanting to learn more about Black history. And so that's the charge that I took upon myself, is to learn. I started reading as much as I could read about Dr. Martin Luther King and Jesse Jackson was already there in Chicago. So I, started volunteering with him in Rainbow Coalition on Saturdays. And so I started doing stuff as a teenager, volunteering. And so I just took that, but I had, like I said, I never seen Asians or Hispanic, Latinos. I never seen people like that in Alabama. So I was in culture shock when I came to Chicago. I never heard a language except for English. I never heard about Spanish or, any of the other languages that we have today. And so I embraced diversity. I wanted to know more, and living in the community in which I lived, it was very diverse because my first little boyfriend, his name was Juan. He was Puerto Rican. And so, I began to embrace diversity, and I stand with diversity today. That is one of my biggest things that I try to teach a lot about, and to teach our young people that we need to embrace each other and love each other. And so as I went on, in Chicago, I began to become more of who I am today because of my grandmother. She embraced me not as her granddaughter, but as her daughter. And she loved me. She showed me what love looked like, what it felt like. She touched me. She hugged me. She prayed for me. I didn't get that from my mom. She sent us to church. She sent us. She didn't take us. My grandmother took me. And so she began to show me things. She began to teach me how to save money. She just taught me a lot. A lot of what I am today is because of my grandmother. And I just say I have a heart for young people, because it was that little girl, that lonely little girl that went to Chicago that began to embrace life in a whole different way. And so I can tell young people, young girls, teenagers, because I was there as an adolescent going into teenage until my adulthood. I stayed with my grandmother until I got married. And it was just me and her. Whatever you see her, you saw me. Whatever you saw, that's just the way it was. And I call her my road dog. She was my everything. We flew on planes together. We did her funeral arrangement. We did everything together. And so this book is a dedication to my mom, who I love dearly, and also to my grandmother that took this young girl, this little Black girl, her granddaughter, and raised her to be who she wanted her to be. And even when she didn't see that I got involved in addiction and alcohol and drugs, she was still praying for me. And she was still believing that girl that she raised was going to turn around. She was going to do a pivot. And I did. I pivoted. And so this is a blessing to not only my mom and my grandmother, but to my daughters. I have 2 adult daughters, 3 grandchildren, 2 by marriage. So I call all of them my grands. And I have 4 Gigi babies. And so to them, this is this book that I want to leave a legacy and to impart memories to them. Because at this stage in my life, there's only my youngest sister and I, it's 2 of us left out of 7. So my youngest sister and my oldest sister, and we wasn't raised together. And so my sister needs to learn some things about my mom and my grandmother that she does not know. My family needs to learn some things about my mom and my grandmother that they do not know. And so it's leaving for my youngest sister and also for my immediate family as well, some things that they may have heard that wasn't true and some things that are true. And so that's my charge in writing this so that it can be a blessing, that it can break margins, that it can break some generational dysfunction and generational curses that may be happening in families because they are in my family. And so I'm grateful to be able to see people healed, delivered, and set free because prayer do work, and I know it worked. And so just to be a blessing to all of those that may read it. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's a lot to take in. You say it's still 54, y'all?
Yeah, it's still 54 of us. Yeah.
Okay. It's Vicky.
Well, I had a great mom too. My mom taught me a lot of things. When you're a little girl, you look up to your parents, that's who's in front of you. So I looked up to my mom. My mom was a really good mom in spite of the different challenges that she had. She had a lot of health challenges, those generational curses, diabetes, high blood pressure, nerve problems. She had those kind of things going on in her life, but she made some decisions that weren't always good decisions. And you don't get a manuscript on how to be a parent. You just go for what you know. You become a parent and you try to do the best that you can in raising your kids. And so growing up as a youngster, I saw a lot of different things. My mom had been married twice. And each one of those marriages, neither one of those marriages turned out to be really good marriages. My mom was an abused wife in actually both of those marriages. And as a young child, I saw a lot of this. I saw a lot of the things that she went through. I saw a lot of the arguments, and I saw a whole lot. And so in writing this book, I'm talking about that in writing part of the chapter in this book. I'm talking about a lot of that. I'm talking about the things that she went through. And not only did she go through a lot of the abuse, the abuse didn't just stop with my mom. The abuse started and it turned on me. And unfortunately, a lot of times that happens in Black families, especially when you're the oldest child. And I was the oldest of the children that were in the home. There's actually 8 of us on my mom's side, and I was the second to the oldest. My oldest sister lived in Madrid, Spain, which she currently lives in Madrid, Spain. So she never really lived with us. So I was the oldest, considered to be the oldest. So like Lula, I watched the kids being born. I watched the kids, I took care of the kids. Let's put it that way. I took care of them. They became my children. They became my responsibility for quite a while. So in talking about my mom, I loved my mom definitely dearly, but my mom, her choices and when it came to men was not the best. Although she thought she had chosen the right person, here the one of them was a deacon in the church, going to church every single Sunday, being an usher every single Sunday, standing up and we thought as an upstanding guy. But you know how you can put on a mask at a masquerade ball, right? At the end of the night, when it's time to reveal yourself, you pull that mask down. Well, we go to church and everything is good and everything is wonderful. But then when we leave that church, the mask comes off. And when the mask come off, it was the pure D devil. That's the only way I can put it. The pure D devil. That's who he was. And so you get a snapshot of my life in the book. You don't get the entire story, which I've already started to write, but you get a snapshot of just some of the things that was happening at the time. But there is so much more. And it's good to be a part of this book, to be with other women who are talking about the mother they knew. The mother I knew, she was strong, but she had some challenges. She had challenges with her choices in life when it came to men. She had challenges with her choices. Well, not really her choices, but her health. She had some challenges that way as well. So I always like to look back and say the words, what doesn't break you, what doesn't kill you, will definitely make you stronger. Even though my mom went through a whole lot of different things, it taught me a lot of lessons. It taught me how to be strong because she was strong. No matter what she was going through, she still looked out for her kids when she was able to do so. So it taught me strength. It taught me what I did want and what I did not want. It taught me how to make a way out of no way. I can remember the days where we didn't have food. And my mom would make a way out of no way. You hear those older people always say, they can make a way out of no way. They can pull up a few items and make a whole meal. That was my mom. Well, I learned from that. I learned how to do that. I learned when at one point in time when my mom wasn't in the home and I was there with just kids, I learned how to feed my brothers and sisters. I learned at a young age how to go to the stove and prepare something so that they would not be hungry. Didn't matter that I didn't have anything, but what mattered is that they ate something, and it didn't matter that I didn't. So it made me strong. What doesn't kill you, what doesn't break you, will definitely make you stronger. So my mom was a very good mom. She was a very good mom. She died way too soon, but her death was not at the hands of any person in her life. It was actually at the hands of a doctor, but that's a whole different story. So yeah, you're getting a snapshot of my life in this book, but the story is going to continue because I've started to write that story and I plan on continuing to complete that book. So that's about the mother that I know.
And also, I didn't, yeah, that is just wonderful, Vicky. But, something I didn't really touch on that's coming to my mind as we're talking is that my mother ended up moving from Alabama to Chicago to where we were and ended up meeting this man. My mother bootlegged for years when we was growing up. When she wasn't doing hair and working, she bootlegged for years. And so I got a chance to see what that was. We used to dance and get quarters and stuff, when the guys would come in the house to get the shot glasses and, the white lightning and all that. I remember that. But my mom ended up, she never drank. Her favorite thing was Winston cigarettes, Hershey, Mr. Goodbar, and Juicy Fruit Gum. Them was her favorites. But when she moved to Chicago, she met this guy. And this guy took her out on her birthday, got her drunk. And I saw my grandmother tear her up. I never seen a person, an adult, a mama, beat their child on their birthday. But I saw my grandmother do that because she wasn't pleased with that behavior. And as they continued in the relationship. And my mother ended up becoming a full-blown alcoholic. And I never have really talked about that, but I need to talk about that because then, for a woman to become an alcoholic or an addict is shunned upon, and we went through a lot with my mom when she was drinking, and this was in Chicago, that we all were there, but we lived in two separate houses, and so I never wanted to become an alcoholic. I never dreamed that I would wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to become an alcoholic. That wasn't on my mind. But as I look back and I see that the signs were there because my family is heavily endowed with alcoholism. And so, but I never thought that would hit me, especially being a female. But it did. And so I need to make some additions, as Vicky has said, make some additions because that's huge. Because today we're looking at alcoholism, substance use disorder is huge. And it stems from our families. It's in our families, and to tell the truth about what's there and how it got there. And a lot of it is because of not having dealt with the little girl inside or the little boy inside, as we were growing up. I carried a lot of emotions. So mine was filled with not physical stuff. Mine was emotional stuff. I was devastated. I was harmed emotionally and was not able to talk about it. And so, this is another way in our book, I believe, in order to allow others to deal with some of those emotions as they go about reading each of our stories as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And there is so much that you all put into this book, talking about the mothers that you know. And I know that there's a few other volumes of the mother you know that'll be coming soon. So if I'm gonna send a plug out there. If you are interested in sharing your story about the mother you know, reach out to Miss Evelyn as well, because she's putting more together. We're gonna go ahead and take another quick commercial break. Be right back in about two, and then be right back with you.
Everybody has a story, and so do you. We know that you've been through life, been through heartaches, been through pain, been through depression. You've thought about writing your book for years, wanting to help change lives because of the things that you've overcome. We don't know what your story is, but we can help you turn your story into a living, breathing book that creates opportunities for you to impact lives and change the world. The business of books is here to teach you the opportunities that come from your book, how to write your book, how to brand yourself, how to market your book, and how to get in front of the right people to sell that book. We have an amazing team of designers, an amazing team of editors. We have a team behind you to help you get through your first book and get it to the world so that the world knows you are here. So remember, everybody has a story. It's time to write yours.
Right. Listen, everybody has that story that they need to get out there. And if you're just tuning in, we're joined by the amazing authors of The Mother You Know. They launched their book yesterday. They didn't just start writing it yesterday. Trust me, there was a process that went into it. And part of that process, I want to let them tell you a little bit more about the process, because the journey didn't start where it ended. And so I want you all to kind of share a little bit about the writing process. How was it for you? What were some of the things that you experienced along the way? What were some of the feelings that came out as a result of being part of this book?
Okay, I can share that. You know, to tell you the truth, I originally had another person or business to help me publish The Mother You Know. But then that publisher, they basically wanted to rewrite our stories. They didn't want us to be as transparent as we are in the book. And so, I mean, the book was pretty much almost done. And then they decided that no, it shouldn't be told this way. Take this out, take that out. No. And so then another author from BOBM recommended you, Sugar Ray. And that's how I called you, and I talked, and I asked you. I said I need some references, because I really just hard to trust anybody these days. I'm just gonna tell you the truth. It's hard. And I checked out your reference, and they highly spoke of you. And so I took a chance, and I'm glad I did. And I told the ladies about it, the other authors, and they trust me to trust you. And here we are, #1 bestseller on Amazon in 17 categories. So I'm glad I trusted my instinct, but I did check you out first. And everybody I talked to had nothing to say but great things about you. And I look forward to working with you in the future. So it's all good. It's all good.
Oh, no.
That's my take on it. Now the other ladies may can share if they like anything.
Well, for me, Evelyn did have another person that was, she actually had questions for us, and we were to speak on these questions, which I found to be a little bit odd because how do you tell a story just from a question that's being asked? And when I told my story, when I was telling my story, all of a sudden, she took the story that I told and she turned it around and she made it all pretty. And I called up Evelyn and I said, take me out of that book because she has made me out to have such a pretty story. My story is not pretty. Everybody comes from something. Everybody goes through something in life. Yeah, I've done a lot of work. I've done a lot of community work. I am who I am in the community, in the radio station. Yes, I am. But my life has not been pretty. My life has been full of challenges. My life has had a whole lot of dark days, not a whole lot of sunshine, but a lot of dark days. And if you take my story and you turn it around and make it pretty, it's not who I am. So originally I told Evelyn, just take me out. I don't have to be in this book. So she began to read my story and she decided as well, you're right. She did take your life out of that story and she made it pretty. Well, I don't like that. So I'm going to look for someone else. So yes, I trusted Evelyn to find the right person. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been in the book because my life is not pretty. Not all of it. My life is not completely dark, but growing up, it was not just all pretty. It wasn't all sunshine roses. It just wasn't that.
And I guess for me, being the same thing, I pretty much, so I teach English a little bit. So I was kind of constructing mine pretty much. And I got some feedback from hers, but not like Vicky. And we were talking about that. And I understood that very well. You need to tell the story as it is and not to block out anything to meet your own, whatever it is that you're meeting in order to do that. And so I wanted her story to be in here. And I was glad when Evelyn found someone else that was willing to take us on and to do this for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, every story, I agree with what y'all are saying. It's not always pretty. Because what most people see, and I say this all the time, even when I'm doing these videos, most people see, okay, you got on a nice suit, you got the tie, but you don't know what I went through this week. You don't know what I went through this month. You don't know what I went through to even get to the point that I can sit before you. And so I don't think that there is a one size fits all story for anybody, because there's somebody right now that's still going through the hell that you had to get past, the growing days. I'm like Vicky. My parents made miracles out of mayonnaise. That and on numerous occasions, while things look pretty on the outside and everybody was like, oh my God, y'all just have this amazing family and things are just coming together, and it's like, yeah, but if you saw some of those dark days, if you saw the things that we actually overcame to get here, and nobody needs just this beautiful, I was born and then life was good, and then like Miss Lula hasn't told everything on this live that she talked about yesterday, about how the education piece and what it took for her to get there. So that's why I said in the beginning, Miss Lula has some credentials that's missing from that name that she's not sharing with y'all, that she earned. And she didn't earn it the way that people are getting it now. She didn't go to an online university. She walked through some of those lines where there were rocks and water being thrown to get there. And so I applaud each one of y'all for telling your truth, telling your story. What was it that what was the thought process as you all were writing? What was that like?
Well, like I said before, it was therapeutic, and sometimes I cried, I had to keep reading it to make sure, do you really want to put this in the book? Do you really want to share this with the world? And I had finally come to the realization that, yes, this is what I want to do. If I'm going to do it, I want to do it the way, it should be done. And so, yeah, that's basically it for me.
For me, it was hard. It was hard because you are putting your life on paper, which is never easy to do. Like Evelyn, I would cry as I read it. In fact, she had to like pull and push me to continue to do so. My church did something, and I belong to the same church as Lula. And if you know the show on television, it's called The Mass Singer, right? Well,
Mhm.
my pastor did something called the Mass Believer. And he called me up at work one day, and I was at work, and he said, Sister Hill, your name came up in our meeting this morning. And I'm like, well, how did my name come up? And I wasn't even at the meeting. And he said, well, I'm doing this thing like the Mass Singer. And I thought, well, you're not going to ask me to sing. I can sing, but I don't want to. And he said, we're doing it. It's called the Mass Believer. So his concept of it, just like the Mass Singer, he chose all these he gave us a choice of different costumes. And we had to choose this costume that would relate to our individual stories. I chose this costume of this young girl. She had a huge head. I don't know who she is now, from Sesame Street, with great big old pigtails. And we had to do something like I had to go to different places and act like a child. I was on the swings, I was on the monkey bars. And my daughter interacted with me because she's about the same height, where I couldn't be there to practice with them because I was working. She'd go in my place. So there was a skit she'd have to do on the stage, like dancing around. It came down to the very last time where we had to unmask who we actually were. I had to tell my story. And I began to tell my story, and I recorded the story, and I sent the story to the pastor, to the secretary, and to the media department. I got phone call after phone call of people being upset with the way I grew up, not because they were mad at me, but because of the things I had to go through in life. They could not believe this person that they thought they knew, and you never really know a person. You only see the outward appearance. You don't know what's happened in the inside or what's going on presently. And so when I got to the church for the reveal, I had this costume on. Nobody knew who I was except for, of course, the pastor, the media department, his wife. And as I took off that mask, people were completely surprised, because then I sat on the stage and I began to unravel. I began to pull back the layers of my life and tell about what it was like. And it was emotional. You find yourself, even though I've lived through it and it's been a while, it's still very emotional. I remember coming back home, and I called up Evelyn and I told her about it. And she kept telling me, I'm so proud of you that you got it out. Yes, but it is not easy to do. It's never easy to stand before people or even write that stuff down or be on a panel like this where there's people watching that I know watching that I don't know, and they don't really know me. But to unravel, to peel back those levels of my life, those levers, those levels of my life, to pull them all back, and those layers, it's not easy to do. It's really hard. So in telling this person that was writing our story at the time, it was very emotional. It was very emotional.
And I guess for me, my experience came when I was in the treatment center, because we had to write about our life. We had to do a life story. And I really don't know. I call myself keeping it through the years, but I lost it some way. It was like 27 pages that I had begin to talk about my life. And so in doing that, as I'm even saying that, that's kind of helped me a little bit, because I exposed myself. I became transparent sitting in that treatment center with all of these 28 other people that I did not know. And so I was able to do that. And by my being a person like I said, in long-term recovery, I still go to meetings. I just go to one, which is my home group, that I go to not as often as I used to go now because I'm involved in other things. But they asked me a couple of weeks ago would I be able to do an open talk. And so in the open talk, you give your story. You talk about what it was like, what it used to be like, and what it's like now. And so I've had those experiences in doing that. But to sit down and to put it on paper, it's different. Because a lot of times by me being a teacher, I'm up talking, and sometimes I don't write a lot because I talk. And so, but to sit and write it, and I was tearing up paper, and this is not right, and I was throwing this away, and I was writing this down, and I was erasing this, and I was doing all kind of stuff, and then I was going like, oh no, this is not good, and then of course trying to get into perfection. You want this thing to be perfect, when you say it, and there is no perfection. I mean, no perfectness, on this side of heaven. But anyway, and so I found myself just writing and writing, and then I really got to the point where the pen just started going on its own. And I'm going like, okay, this is it. Because I'm outside of me, my flesh, and my spirit is now taken over to write this thing. And so, but it took a lot. It really took a lot because I'm not doing this. I don't know. I've exposed myself a lot, but then to do it again and put it into a book, which I really wanted to do, but I had no way. I had all kind of ideas of how you do this and not having any real guidance and direction and not knowing, what the outcome of was going to be. And so when Evelyn said, okay, I want you to do it, it was like, oh my goodness, she's thinking enough of me to help me to do this. And so I'm going like, okay. But yeah, and it brought back, like Vicky said, brought back memories. I cried, I prayed, I asked for forgiveness. I just went through a whole shebang of stuff. I laughed, so it's no easy task to sit when you are becoming transparent with yourself to others. It's not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that it's not an easy process when you are actually writing your story. You can write about somebody else and the words will just flow. But the minute that you start writing the first book that I wrote, I hid a lot in my very first book because it was a motivational book. But I did share a lot of my truth, and even as I was writing it, there were tears flowing as I'm typing on these pages. So I understand completely that journey is more difficult than people think. I wanna find out from each of you ladies what's next. I want to hear about some of the programs that y'all have coming up. I know Women of Colors is in Saginaw, but it's also a very successful organization, and there's women all over the world that could be a part of this.
Well, yes, we've been in existence for almost 30 years, and I'm one of the co-founders of the organization, and I'm proud of that. We just recently launched a TV network, and you can access that through Roku, Apple, or Amazon. You can also go to womenofcolors.org, and we have a button you can click and go directly to our TV network. And we have numerous forums, time to have a conversation that includes about racial justice, domestic violence, human trafficking, suicide, mental health. I mean, we cover a lot of issues. And so you won't be disappointed. It's very educational and informative. So yeah, I that is one of the things we'll be pushing a lot of, and we'll also be sharing more. We even highlight authors of the month. Every month we have a different author telling something about their book as well. We also have a awesome substance abuse prevention team that will be that go around our community and teach about substance abuse and making better choices in life. So that's what I would say I would be doing. Busy with that.
Along with that, as Evelyn is talking, besides the forms that we do, and we do a lot of forms, we touch the subjects that most people are not touching. We touch those hard things: suicide prevention, or suicide and mental health awareness, and domestic violence. If you take a look at those forms, you'll be glad that you did, because they're very emotional. A lot of times it's very good. We actually have people who are on those panels. We try to always put a professional on the panel with us, and we're talking to these people who have actually lived this thing, and not just something I heard. But there are people on there who have lost their children to suicide, who have died by suicide, and then themselves have contemplated after such of also dying by suicide. And along with all of the different forms that we do, and the teaching that we do when it comes to prevention of alcohol and drugs, we also have a program called Stronger Together. And that's for the flip side of that, which Evelyn didn't talk about. The flip side of that, where the person who has had to deal with that child or that mother or that father or whomever it was that was going through those substance abuses, and how you can get support with other folks that are going through the same thing. And then our big thing that we do every single year, and we've been doing it now for about 8 years, I want to say, is our big coat drive in November. We supply hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children, underprivileged children, with coats. And I'm not talking about something that's used. 99.9% of the coats we have are brand new coats. And we go out and shop for those coats every single year, and we supply those children with those coats. So Women of Colors, we do so much in our community. Yes, we're turning 30 years old next March, and we're planning on a nice celebration to celebrate that 30 years. But we do so much in our community. We have become that household name. When you bring up Women of Colors, oh yeah, we're known. We're known everywhere. And we do a lot. We do a lot in our community.
Yes, and I think, Vicky, you forgot about, we have not only the forms of time to have a conversation, we have two other forums that we do that are specifically male and female. And the one for females is How I Overcame, and women talk about standing their truths and talk about what happened and how it happened. And the men, I'm Still a Man, come. And we've had, some of our outstanding leaders in the community to come and to talk about what life was like for them, and how did they get to be the sheriff of Saginaw County, and how did they get to own the Corvette shop, and how did they, and then you talk about the one that went into prison, how he came out, and now he's a
bishop.
Yeah, and you have all of these people that come on and stand in their truth, and to let people know, hey, I have not always been who you looking at now. And so they walk back their story. So Women of Colors, we have had this platform going, and we were able to even pivot during the pandemic with our programs that we have done in the schools, in the middle schools, in the high schools, in our Saginaw public school system. And we were able to do it on Zoom. And a lot of them was not even, because school was out. And so we were able to come on and still teach life skills and still teach about substance use disorder with our young people, and to go into different areas in the community. And we're still in some right now that we're doing in an adjudicated program that we're in, that we're working with men and women through Women of Color. So yeah, our name is really out there, and we're trying to make this thing go even bigger.
Absolutely. And you know what? Even though all of the things that we continue to do in our community, you know how people are looking at you and you don't really know they're looking at, they're not paying attention. You don't think people are really paying attention to you. Where they're looking so at Women of Colors until we became that person that they wanted to offer us a $200,000 grant to find out why African Americans don't return for their follow-up care. And we got that grant and we did that study and we've worked that backwards and forward and with mental health, and substance abuse. So we're doing some things. We are definitely movers and shakers in the Saginaw community.
Absolutely. And I have a few resources here as far as like some mental health specialists if y'all are interested, people that would be interested in helping with some of y'all forms or whatnot.
Okay.
To deal with different
Awesome.
issues.
And
So-
Ray, I have one thing that I want to say is that my grandmother, her name is not Lula. My grandmother's name is Rosa B. Edens. And I'm really named after both my grandmothers, Grandma Lula and Grandmother Rose. And so towards the end, it's her name is Rosabelle Edens,
Okay.
not Lula Williams.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Two strong Black women.
There we go. Listen, strong women create strong women, and strong foundations for families. So where can we find you all, and what's next individually for each and every one of y'all?
Well, you can find me, Evelyn McGovern, at motheryouKnow@gmail.com, and also the same on Instagram, motheryouKnow. Yeah. And what's next for me is I'm really seriously looking at doing the Father You Know, the next series, the Father You Know, as well as another series on the Mother You Know, because there's so many stories to be told, because everyone has a story, like you said. Yes.
Absolutely. So for those of y'all that are interested in being in the next volume, with the Father You Know, and is that going to be exclusive to women, the Father You Know, or is it women
No.
and men? Or how you doing?
Women, it'll be the men's side. It'll be only men. I just want to hear in the Father You Know. I really want to hear from the men's side about their father, the father they know, or maybe don't know. Yeah, about fathers. I think I want to hear the men's stories,
So,
because you men
more
have
books?
stories too. You
Oh
have
yeah,
stories.
we do. Yeah, we do. More stories, and more books and more forums, as well as more speaking opportunities. So you're looking to book Miss Evelyn to speak, then
Oh, definitely.
um, follow her and come back to her. All right.
Awesome.
For me, you can find
Ladies?
me at you can either look me up on Facebook, Vicky Hill, or Gospel Lady VH, and the same on Twitter and on Instagram. For me, it's going to be my story. You only got a snapshot, so I am working on it right now. So it will be my story that I'm working on, among with so many other things that I've got on my plate. But that is number one.
Yes, and I'm being pushed into doing what I said I was going to do, but haven't been doing. So, yeah, putting an addition on to the story, because there is more to the story. And I also can be reached on Facebook. I have Twitter, but I don't remember what it's at something, is at Lula something. But anyway, yeah, so I'm still having to get on social. I'm on social media, but not as much as I want to be. And so that's an area that I really need to push myself into doing more. But Facebook, definitely, yes.
All right. And
I
so
just wanted to
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Sugar Ray, I just wanted to ask Vicky if she knew the title of her book.
I am between two titles right now, and the one that I've been leaning on recently is Silent Cries.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
So listen, for those of y'all that are out there, do us a favor. Make sure you go and grab your copy of the book. Grab one for yourself to read and grab one to share. Um, and you can find them on. You can find the women of color on Facebook. You can find them on Instagram. You can find them on Twitter. Um, Follow them on their Roku channel and get involved in those forums that are out there, because these conversations, the only way to make true change and break some of those chains that are happening in our communities is to get involved. Get involved in the conversation, because there's too many people sitting on the sideline with those judging eyes, when everybody has a story, everybody has something that they've been through. And when we start sharing our stories and start sharing in the events, one, you're helping to get the word out, but two, you're also helping somebody else that you didn't even know needed help. So let's keep
Right.
moving, let's keep going. Once again, ladies, go ahead and close us out. We'll go ahead and close out the Book Talk Live. Another great episode.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for taking time to listen to us. And I really want to thank you, Sugar Ray, and your staff for all of your support in helping this book become a #1 bestseller. I realize it's a method to your madness. It's
Don't tell
all
too many
good.
people.
And I just look forward to I just look forward to working with you and even more.
Absolutely.
I too would like to thank everyone who's looking on and listening. Thank you for listening to us and talk about the mother that we know, talking about our journey, our next journey, the next chapter in our lives. I appreciate the work you've done, Sugar Ray. Good job. Thank you so very much.
Yes, and kudos to everything that they've said.
Absolutely. Listen, um, the Mother You Know now available online at your local e-tailer, as well as go to their link specifically and purchase that book directly. Um, and if you're interested in being in the next edition, look for those books that are coming out from Miss Vicky. Look for those books that are coming out from Miss Evelyn, Miss Lula, as well as the other authors who were not here today. Happy birthday, Miss Marcia, Miss Michelle, and listen, we love y'all, and we'll see y'all next time right here on Book Talk Live. Love y'all.
Okay. Goodbye. See you later.